So let's go on with the session. So dissecting gender norms. So what we're going to do is we're going to really assess what that means to us. We're going to define terms so that we all are on the same page and we can understand what's going on. And then we're going to work hard to understand each other so that we can be more relational with one another and we can just get along more and we can understand where each of us are coming from much better, especially as it concerns our gender identities and how it makes us show up in the world and the preconceived notions that go with that. So let's go ahead and start the session. If you do have any questions, do feel free to put them in the chat box. If it is something that you would like to speak on out loud, feel free to request to unmute yourself and go ahead. Let's go ahead. So what we're going to do is we're going to define misogyny because this is something that affects each of us, men and women, girls and boys. It affects us in every facet of our lives because it really can dictate how you show up and how you don't show up. And it can really affect whether you're your authentic self or whether you're presenting yourself in the way you think you should. So we're going to start by defining that term so we all understand what it is we're talking about and how it affects us. So misogyny can be defined as the hatred and contempt or prejudice against women and or girls. So there we have a bit of an origin for where it came from and how we dissect it. And it really just speaks to having the mindset that anything that is feminine or conceived to be feminine within a specific culture, society, can be looked down upon or looked at negatively if you are subscribing to misogyny, then it's looked as less than, less valuable, less important. So misogyny can show up in so many different ways. In young people, it can be displayed through sexist jokes, where you might say something like, oh, you're arguing like a girl, or you're getting emotional like a girl would, or you are going to the gym, so that means you're going to look like a man, you're going to be too muscular. That's how it can show up in those stereotypes that we hold based on someone's gender identity. They're ideas that we feel like they should subscribe to just because they may be a man or a woman, a boy or a girl. So that's how it can show up just in our daily lives, objectification of women, victim blaming, especially in situations of sexual violence, of any sort of violence, where you ask someone, oh, well, what were you wearing? Where were you? Why were you there when this happened? If you weren't there, then this wouldn't have happened. Instead of putting the onus on the person who's perpetuated the crime, you'll often find that that onus is put on the victim to not be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that is a part of misogyny. Gender-based violence, experiencing violence solely based off of the fact that you are a woman. So maybe it might be looked upon as maybe okay to treat you in a certain way that is not beneficial to your health or your safety. That is an aspect of misogyny. And it can affect someone's ability to move safely and comfortably through the world. So this has a negative impact on gender relations as it perpetuates the harmful stereotypes and discourages gender equality. As we know, if you look down upon someone just based off of how they present in the world, it's going to be very difficult for them to then garner respect, for them to be able to be safe, to be authentically themselves, because they may have to be on guard due to those preconceived notions. Then we have cyber misogyny that can show up in sending explicit messages to people without their consent or commenting explicitly on someone's picture or someone's post, objectifying someone on the internet. And it can then become harassment, like what we covered in our last session, how you can speak to someone in a way that is going to make them feel less than or objectified or take away dignity from them. And that is a form of misogyny. Then we do have workplace misogyny, and this is when we have the ideas that women should only perform certain roles in the workplace, like maybe being a personal assistant only, or maybe not progressing past a certain part in the organization because there might be that belief that women are too emotional to handle the hard things or too emotional to make the tough decisions. So these things can hinder someone's upward mobility, and that is a form of misogyny that can be very detrimental to society at large because we each have contributions that we can make. So when you start someone in that way, it can really have negative outcomes for everyone as just as a society. So that is the way that workplace misogyny can show up, or it can also show up in men not wanting to take roles that are generally perceived as feminine. Like there is the preconceived notion that men shouldn't be nurses or men shouldn't participate in the beauty industry or the design industry, even though more often than not, they do thrive in those areas. But societally, sometimes there might be that idea that, oh, if you work with women's hair or if you work in women's products, that means you must not be straight, or you must perceive yourself as more feminine, you're not a man, you're not strong, you're not muscular. So that is a form of misogyny, because someone's job should not define who they are as a person, and people should be free to pursue their passions no matter what they are. So that's the way that misogyny is taught in the workplace.